skirt accountability so easily and emerge even stronger? Why had Democrats pulled certain punches? And did Republicans really see nothing wrong with Trump's behavior? And most of all, was the outcome as preordained as everyone seemed to think it was? As we set about writing our book, we vowed to get those answers. We spent thousands of hours deconstructing everything we had already witnessed and re-interviewing sources, including lawmakers from both parties, Hill staffers, White House officials, and others who had played some role in the impeachment investigation and trial. What we learned from our more than 250 interviews surprised us, even though we were two of the most plugged-in reporters on the impeachment story. And it completely changed our understanding of what had happened. We discovered that political calculations, not fact-finding, dominated nearly every key decision of Speaker Nancy Pelosi's impeachment strategy. We learned that some House Democrats were sounding dire warnings early on that the party was bungling its case against Trump and leaving half the nation behind. We found that while Democrats said they wanted bipartisanship, when presented with ways to achieve it, they chose paths that guaranteed the opposite. We also were told about the panic that gripped Trump's key GOP congressional allies in the early days of the impeachment probe, and how they consciously muzzled their scruples in order to ardently defend the president publicly. A clear picture began to form of an impeachment that had been crippled by doubt and exploited by avarice, emboldening the president and weakening the legislative branch. And then, just as we were finishing our manuscript, it happened again. The circumstances and the fact of Trump's second impeachment were unprecedented, yet the same problems that plagued the first impeachment hobbled the second one too. Even armed with a better case, Democrats chose expediency over thoroughness in the name of saving the agenda of newly elected President Joe Biden. Republicans, who were disgusted by Trump's behavior on January 6th, found narrow procedural escape hatches to avoid convicting a former president who still held sway over their political futures. And the result was a further degradation of Congress's oversight authority and the efficacy of impeachment overall. This is the never-before-told story of what actually happened behind the scenes of the historic impeachments of Donald Trump, when Democrats twice deployed Congress's most powerful weapon against the same president and failed both times to bring him down. The efforts to oust Trump garnered round-the-clock, obsessive media coverage, dominating headlines and cable news. But the full picture of what transpired on Capitol Hill has never been revealed until now. At a time when congressional oversight was more vital than ever, lawmakers repeatedly fumbled in their bid to rein in a president determined to upend the democratic system, emboldening one of the most divisive and controversial presidents in American history and exposing deficiencies in the constitutional order, particularly regarding impeachment. The prevailing narrative of these two critical years, from the Democratic takeover in early 2019 to the dramatic weeks after the January 6th 2021 Capitol insurrection, has been overly simplistic. The conventional wisdom in Washington has been that Republicans turned a blind eye to the misbehavior of their party's leader and thus empowered him to greater acts of recklessness, and that Democrats simply couldn't overcome the intransigence of Trump's congressional lackeys, who defended him despite overwhelming evidence of his guilt. But while there is some truth to that narrative, the reality of what occurred, we learned, was far more complex. Trump escaped accountability not simply because his own party wouldn't stand up to him, but because the opposing party was also afraid to flex the full force of its constitutional muscle to check him. Republicans didn't just block and sabotage impeachment. Democrats never went all in, fumbling their best chance to turn the American public away from Trump for good. Rather, under the leadership of a cautious speaker, Democrats hesitated when they could have acted decisively following a special counsel's findings that Trump had effectively obstructed justice and may have even lied to investigators. Instead, they fixated on political concerns, worried that blowback from the populist president could cost them their House majority. Even when revelations that Trump had tried to bully a foreign ally into smearing his 2020 election rival pitched the House into an impeachment investigation, Democrats rushed through an artificially narrow probe, leaving serious allegations against Trump on the cutting room floor. And they